Hello, thank you, Jacqueline. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Jacqueline said, we are excited to have you here because we're going to revisit all the features that we have released in the past few months for Microsoft Sentinel. So let's look at the agenda. So first of all, we're going to kick things off with a round of celebration. It's time to recognize some of our fantastic achievements because we think that hard work deserves some well-earned applause, right? And then we'll dive into our vision for Microsoft Sentinel. Many of you already are familiar with our goals, either because you've been part of our journey for quite some time or you've been actively using the product. We'll keep this discussion short, but we do want to put a spotlight on our vision for the product as it is, of course, an essential part of our mission. Now, of course, the highlight of the show, the updates. So we'll share the latest and greatest enhancements that have rolled out in the past months. And then last but not least, we will wrap things up with a demo of some of the cool new features that have been discussed in this presentation. So let's jump right into the presentation. Jeremy, tell me, what do we have to celebrate?
Thanks, Naomi. So first of all, just want to spend a few seconds to talk about our milestones that we achieved. As you all know, Microsoft Sentinel, we released this product in 2019. And in late 2019, it came GA. So last year was named leader in the Gartner SIEM Magic Quadrant and also achieved top scores in SIEM critical capabilities. Besides that, we also named leader in Forrester Wave Security Analytics. So just want to thank you all for your support, and without your support, we wouldn't achieve this milestone. So thank you. Next, let me share our visions. So we would like to empower the SOCs with the innovations, data science, security research, and threat intelligence to solve the challenges for the SOC team and maximize the SOC's outcomes. So it will be done by the flexibility of the cloud scale protections, whether your assets are in multi-cloud, on-prem, or in a hybrid environment. So our vision is to provide a simplified and comprehensive solutions powered by the AI and automations to increase the SOC's efficiency. So that's our vision. And of course, in order to achieve that, so we need to equip the tool with some comprehensive capabilities. So here are the 6 main capabilities, and all the features that we will be sharing today in terms of what's new in the last 6 months will actually be framed or categorized among all these 6 categories. All right, so without further ado, Naomi, do you want to share what are the new features that we released in terms of the protecting customers' security operations platform?
Yes, thank you, Jeremy. So first of all, we're kicking things off with a fantastic upgrade to the incident investigation experience. So this feature has been in public preview since January, but now it's officially generally available. So what's so exciting about it? Well, it transforms your incident investigation experience. You will have all the information you need in one view, making it super easy to use. So in one view, you have your insights, your timeline, similar incidents, and much more. So with all this information, your investigation efforts will be streamlined. And as you might have realized, the new experience brings all that relevant data and tools just at your fingertips. So by using the new experience, your work should become more efficient and effective. When we, by the way, initially released this feature into public preview, we hosted an incredible webinar showcasing all the improvements made to the investigation experience. And so we do also propose to go rewatch that webinar to explore the enhancements in greater detail. Or you can stick around until the end of our presentation, where we'll also use this feature into one of our demos. Next up, we've got in GA a powerful integration between Microsoft 365 Defender and Sentinel. This integration seamlessly combines Microsoft 365 Defender incidents with those from other systems. So you can use the strength of both platforms to manage your incidents. Now, onto the incidents tasks. So these are a real game changer for your security operations. Think of them as your checklist for resolving incidents. So you'll always know what needs to be done for a specific incident, and you can check them off one by one as you tackle those incidents. The tasks can pop up automatically thanks to automation rules, or you can create them on the fly manually whenever you need them. So they should bring order to your incident chaos. And the last one we'll talk about is all about transparency and accountability. So with the ability to also audit changes to those incident tasks, you can track the history of your Sentinel incident tasks and your Sentinel incident resolutions. So it's like having a paper trail for your tasks. And then that way you can ensure that tasks are completed as intended. So all these features are actually designed to make your life as a security professional easier and more effective. But I think, Jeremy, you can also give some advice on different ways to optimize the SOC, right?
Certainly. Thanks, Naomi. Now, a couple of things to share around optimized stocks. So the first one is the ingestion time transformations. So now this is something that we have released last year and it's already GA. You might be already familiar with it or even using it to perform filtering, normalizations, or even masking. So the reason why we are mentioning this, because in the last few months, so these features has added additional capabilities, such as the ability to route data to multi-destination. So for example, you might have a data source, right, that you collected, and you might want to split the logs into, let's say, apart from the native table, you might want to send it to a custom table as well, so that you could set a different ingestion tier, such as basic logs, for cost-saving purposes. So definitely something that you need to, you might want to check it out if you are not aware. Or you could also stay until the end of the presentation, where we will have a demo, a use case that would leverage this feature. So next would be the optimization workbooks, the workbook that we released last month. So this workbook will help to provide you with insights that you need to perform optimizations. This workbook has three main pillars. It has the cost and ingestions pillars. It has operational effectiveness and also management and accelerations. So as you can see from these screenshots, each pillar will provide you, first of all, with a high level overview. And if you would like to drill down further to each information or each metrics provided here, they are the detailed sections where you could drill down and navigate further for more information. So with these insights, such as the ingestion anomaly or even your operational metrics, such as MTTA and TDR, that will allows you to gain visibility and also the information to help you to perform optimization. Next up, another workbook, which is called Data Collection Rule Toolkits Workbook. So this workbook will provide a will allows you to manage data collection rule centrally, right, with a kind of user interface. So as you all know that data collection rule is being used, for example, in our Azure monitoring agents, or you could create data collection rule for the workspace to perform transformation, right? So by using this workbook, first of all, it allows you to centrally manage all your DCR, right, in an environment. And secondly, you could also create DCR by using this workbook. So as you can see from this sample screenshot, you can, let's say you would like to create a DCR by filtering events, based on certain minor tactics. This provide with a very intuitive user interface that allows you to create it from the workbook itself. And last but not least, this regarding the schedule rule monitoring and optimizing, we provide the insights with the by providing the status of the rule executions, such as whether you have any failed executions and what's the health status of the rule for each execution. And if there's a need to, let's say, rerun a specific analytics rule on a specific interval, you can now do that with this rule run options as well. Now, Naomi, I'm sure you have a couple of features related to automate incident response and help customer to disrupt attacks. Do you mind sharing those?
Yeah, thanks. So first of all, I would really like to highlight that we have released a couple of new exciting SOAR solutions. So we're looking at a whole range of categories, from multi-cloud SOAR to vulnerability enrichment, incident management, migration, and threat intelligence. And here's the real impressive part. We've got over 330 playbooks ready to be rolled out in your Microsoft Sentinel environment via the Content Hub. So you should definitely go check it out. Now, let's also talk about our next feature, which is actually kind of vital part of a cybersecurity SOC, proactive threat hunting. We've actually always had hunting in our product, but now we've introduced something called hunts. And these will help you stay ahead of threats. Well, how does it work? First, you come up with a hunch or an idea that you want to investigate. Then you can use a couple of ready-made hunting queries, or you can make your own queries to check for suspicious stuff. And then when you have created them, you can run multiple hunts at the same time. And by using this hunt feature, you can keep all those hunting queries all organized in your hunt, and you can collect evidence as you go. It can, by the way, also be a team effort, because you can leave comments, and where you find something fishy, you can take actions right away. So this might mean creating new rules, incidents, or even running special procedures to deal with the issues from within the hunt itself. Okay, so let's take a closer look with some more screenshots. So when you start a new hunt, you give it a name, you give it a description, and when it's created, you can add queries to the hunt. So when you have created your queries, you get this new screenshot where you can see an overview of what you have. So when one of the queries is running and it has finished and you find something suspicious, you can further investigate it from over here. You can, by the way, also add bookmarks if something fishy caught your attention and you want to keep track of it. So in the next screenshot, you will see how that creation of a bookmark in what it results. And let's say you find something suspicious with that bookmark, like an entity, like an IP address that is suspicious. And at this point, you can decide, for example, to add it to your threat intelligence, or even run a special procedure like a playbook just for that IP address via this entity step or the bookmark. And you can also, if something is really not right, you can create an incident from over here. So if it's a real red flag, you can directly create it from the hunt to warn all your team about this very suspicious behavior. So just in a nutshell, proactive threat hunting will help you spot trouble early on. And lastly, for this slide, let's talk about automating task management. So in my previous slide, I already talked about tasks and about the need to ensure effective handling of incidents and then also standardizing the handling of incidents. Now we also want to announce in this session the release of a playbook and a workbook along with an update to the SOC process framework that will help you with automating this all. So also go check it out after the webinar, or you can wait until the end of this session where we will also demo it. Jeremy, I've also already mentioned that you can add TI via the hunt feature, but maybe you can also provide some more insights into the latest developments for TI?
Sure, certainly. Now, in the TI space, so first of all, early this year, we announced the Microsoft Defender Threat Intelligence data connector and solutions. So now you could bring the TI feeds from our MDTI without any additional licensing, only ingestion charges. So with the IOCs, you could actually leverage our out of the box TI matching rules. You could even use it to perform proactive huntings and etc. So definitely something that would be useful. Besides that, we also have released a new threat intelligence upload indicators API connectors. So this is for customers who would like to ingest IOC from third-party sources that support the threat intelligence platform. So these will also be replacing the legacy threat intelligence platform connectors. And the feeds that you bring in today will also be compliant with the stick format. Now, besides that, we also have TI bulk injections API, which is also called TI upload injections API. So this actually will allows user to ingest TI programmatically. So for example, you might want to, you might have a custom feeds that you want to ingest. So one of the benefits of using this API is the permissions will now, be scoped to specific Sentinel workspaces instead of requires the tenant permissions like in the past you had with the Graph Security API. Next, so sometimes organizations, departments or even within the team members might want to share the insights, right, of the IOC, and they have been asked to have a capabilities to import TI in an ad hoc manner. So we have released a file-based TI import features that allows user to import TI via files such as CSV or JSON. So this would definitely help to increase the efficiency of the SOC operations. Besides that, Naomi has mentioned in the previous slides that in the new incidents or in an investigation experience, you can now add the TI during the investigation of an incident. Let's say you found that there's an entity that is fishy that you might want to add into the TI repository. You can now do that on the fly. So that, by clicking the options next to the specific entity and add that specific entity to TI repository. And last but not least, around the enrichment and insights provided by our threat intelligence features. So you will see those insights surface in the top insight sections of the incidents page without the need to navigate over to the TI blades or even entity blades, right? So that would actually increase the efficiency of the SOX analysts in terms of investigating specific incidents. Next, Naomi, do you want to talk about the protections in terms of the business application and multi-cloud?
Yes, thank you. So let me share what we've done to help protect vulnerable assets. But before we dive into what we have developed, I'm also very excited to share some big news. We have officially received certification for SAP S/4HANA Cloud, Private Edition RISE with SAP, and SAP S/4 on-prem since March. So this certification not only shows our strong dedication to enhancing security for SAP products, but also kind of serves as a stamp of approval for the quality of integration that we do provide for SAP. Now on to the actual improvements to the solutions. Let's focus first on SAP improvements. Now, as you might know, our solution for SAP has two parts. We have the data connector part and the actual solution. And we've been hard at work at enhancing them both. So let's first focus on the data connector part. The data connector agent is the one responsible for collecting SAP logs and then sending them to Sentinel. And we have simplified the deployment of the agent. First, we now offer a user-friendly interface to make the deployment process way easier. And secondly, you can now connect multiple SIDs to one data connector agent. So this eliminates the need to set up a container for each system ID from SAP. So in the screenshot, you'll see the simplified user interface. And the first part helps you define an agent with the right configurations. And then the second part lets you assign the SAP systems to the container agent by specifying the system information, the credentials, which logs you want to collect, and more. I also want to quickly say that we did receive a lot of fantastic feedback on this new user interface. So if you have SAP, go check it out. And before I forget, we also enabled automatic updating of the agent, so you can always have the most recent and new enhanced version of the agent. Now let's shift our focus to the content part of the SAP Sentinel solution. So we've also made significant improvements here. For example, we've added out-of-the-box playbooks that can perform actions directly on SAP systems. So for example, one of the playbooks that we created can block a user on the SAP system itself. We've also introduced some amazing workbooks. One of them, for example, provides an overview of the most interesting rules for your SAP environment and which ones would make sense for you to enable. Plus, we've also added a bunch of helpful new analytic rules. Some of these rules can alert you to exfiltrations of data or monitor for changes to specific configuration parameters and much more. And also, let's not forget, the Sentinel solution for SAP BTP is also available for you to test out. So go check that one out also. But let's also shift our focus away from the SAP updates and explore some other recent releases. However, before we leave the SAP updates, I do want to also advise to go check out our Microsoft Security channel on YouTube, because there you can find more in-depth SAP related release information. So we've uploaded a couple of helpful videos, including tutorials on deploying the solution with a new user interface, videos on using the playbook, like the one that blocks a user, and much more. And also, you can find on the channel our past webinar from June, where we presented an in-depth overview of the SAP Sentinel solution updates. But as promised, let's look at some other areas. I want to mention that we've also launched a solution for Dynamics FNO. So it's also a premium solution, and it's designed to monitor and detect threats and respond to incidents in a sensitive ERP system, but the ones that are powered by Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. We're also introducing the Microsoft Sentinel solution for Microsoft Power Platform in public preview. This solution also helps detect and respond to threats, but this one is for the threats that are introduced by citizen-developed Power Apps. And of course, there's more. We've developed connectors to keep up with the multi-cloud trend. So we felt the need to really help protect your applications and data across different clouds. So that's why we have enhanced the connector for the Google Cloud Platform. And we also extended our AWS connector to support CloudWatch logs. And last but not least, we've created connectors for Purview and Azure Event Hubs. So that makes it easier to stay on top of data and events across all the various platforms. So as you can see, we've been very busy enhancing our solutions, and I actually want to deep dive into each one of them and give screenshots, but this should be an overview session. So I'll give the word back to Jeremy. Is that okay?
Sure. I mean, indeed, the list, there's still more in this page. So as what Naomi mentions, I will not go and the deep dive each and every one, but just want to quickly mention that we have also released a couple of solutions which are ASIM oriented. So ASIM is our Advanced Security Information Model Normalizations schema. So in the last few months, we have released the solutions for DNS, network sections, and web sections, which are based on ASIM. And besides that, there are a couple of more solutions that we have released in the past as well. So for more information, so next week, there's also a public webinar regarding Content Hub. So feel free to check that one out as well. Next, just want to shift gear a little bit to talk about features related to the scalability and enterprise-grade solutions. So first of all, for customers with multi-workspace and multi-tenant environments, so we have released a feature called Workspace Manager. So this will help you to distributes, right, the content of the your Sentinel, such as the analytics rule, workbooks and playbooks, and allows you to manage them in a multi-tenants and multi-workspace environment. So for example, you might have let's say multiple workspaces in your environment across different geolocations. You can actually create virtual groups to define each locations. And after that, you can select specific content that you want to deploy or distribute to those specific groups. Another use case would be you might have different workspaces that you have in your environment according to business group or different operation teams or departments. So you could also achieve that by creating multiple groups in the workspace manager. And after that, you would just select the content from the parent workspace that you nominated in Sentinel to configure which content you want to publish in those child workspaces. And next, the Content Hub and content centralizations has also, become GA. So this allows user to manage the content such as the connectors, hunting queries, and analytics rule in Content Hub. There's also a bit of changes in terms of the experience. So in the past, you will see all the out-of-box templates available, right? For example, in the data connectors and analytics rule. So now you will be managing and deploying them through the Content Hub solutions. So just want to, again, I mentioned earlier, so next week we have a webinar around this topic, right, which is Content Hub and content centralizations. So if you want to find out or learn more about this, so feel free to join the webinar next week. Besides that, in terms of the pricing tier, so 2 months ago, we have announced a new simplified pricing experience. So this came from the feedback where, for Sentinel customers, so we all know that Sentinel is being built based on the Sentinel charges and also log analytics charges, because Sentinel is a service that runs on top of log analytics. And customer who would like to configure, let's say, complement tier or different pricing settings would need to go to different places to configure them. So with this simplified pricing, those 2 meter will be unified into one. So for existing customer, it will be optional. That means you will have the options to switch to this new simplified pricing tier experience. But for any new Sentinel workspaces that provision after July this year will automatically have this new experience onboarded. So one of the key benefits of having this is if you have the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Defender for Server P2, which come with the 500 meg per day per node of the ingestion allocation. So you know that in the past, the benefits, right, or the allocations only apply to the log analytics pricing. So with this new simplified pricing experience, because the 2 meters are now unified into one, that also means that the 500 meg per day per node allocation will also be extended to the Sentinel pricing. So definitely, will bring more cost saving and benefits if you have Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Defender for Server P2. Besides that, we also announced GA for the archive, the lower cost ingestion tier, which is basic logs, our search job, and log restore. Those are the key features that allows customer, first of all, provide the options for the ingestion plan, and also allows customer to perform synchronous search with the search job. Last but not least, the new improved table level RBAC experience that allows you to manage table permissions, which includes custom table with the standard Azure RBAC tools. So in the past, with the legacy table RBACs, if you configure table level RBAC for custom tables, it will apply to all the custom tables. But with this new improved experience, you can actually set the custom level custom tables individually, right, for the table level RBAC, which will be useful and potentially unblocks, right, use cases that you have in your environment. Right, so that's all that we have prepared for you in terms of the updates for what's new that we released in the last couple of months. So next, we have prepared some great demo to showcase. Naomi, do you want to walk us through with the first use case?
Gladly. Yeah. So for the first scenario, we want to help our company with streamlining the incident resolution. So imagine that your company is in need of a time-bound rule execution, just not only as a preference, but also as a necessity for audit requirements. So in this scenario, our organization needs to run weekly audits to ensure the security and compliance of sensitive data. When incidents are generated as part of this process, we of course need to take a look and investigate those incidents. So we will also look into the investigation, the new investigation experience. And whenever something comes up, we can maybe have to fine tune our rules because we do need to update them and fine tune them all the time. So to achieve our goals, we'll use some of the features that we've mentioned in this session. So first of all, we will be setting and checking rules just to make sure that they happen whenever we need them to. We'll also showcase the incident experience when investigating and resolving incidents. And we will also use automation rules that will simplify task management. So we'll also take a quick look into task management and just to make sure that no critical steps are missed. So let's take a look to the demo. So first of all, we will go into our analytics plate because we already created a rule. It's not moving. Yeah, thank you. So we're going into the analytics plate to take a look at the audit rule that runs weekly. So this audit rule is actually just a rule that collects all the incidents that were generated that have something to do with sensitive data that is being accessed. So this rule already runs every 7 days, but we do want it to start running every Monday morning so that when we come into the office, we can start working on it. So now we set this rule at a specific time, Monday morning, 6 a.m. And because it runs every 7 days, it will always start running on Monday morning. So that's the easy part. Now let's take a look at an incident that was generated by this rule, because as mentioned, this rule will collect all the suspicious behaviors of accessing sensitive data. So when we take a look into the incidents, we go straight away to the events to see which kind of incidents are related to accessing of sensitive data. And the SAP sensitive financial data accessed is actually a suspicious one that we need to further investigate. So let's take a look at the latest incident for this one. By the way, in this view, you can already see tasks from this view without going into the full investigation experience, but let's also go to that investigation experience. So you have your timeline, you have your status, and you have 3 entities. So you have an account, a cloud application. But what's weird is that I do remember to have identified 4 entities. So let's go into the rule definition to make sure that nothing's wrong. So whenever we are ready and take a look into the entity mapping, we do see that I configured IP, but it was wrongly configured. So let's reconfigure that one and let's also rerun the rule so that that incident can be recreated with the right entities. So now we have saved the rule and we'll go out of this investigation pane, go over to the analytics rule plate to also take a look at the insights. Because if we had checked insights for this rule, then we could have seen the health of this rule. So there's the insights tab. We see the health of this rule, but we also see that it was actually already mentioned that there was an issue. entities dropped due to mapping issues. So we could have been warned already. Now, if we go over and click on the rules run button, you can see all the times the rule was run. And let's now also rerun the rule because we mapped the entity now correctly and we want to recreate an incident. So it's now replaying the rule. You can also see whenever it's ready that the type is now user triggered. And when the rule has finished running, we can also quickly take a look into the view full details just to make sure and show you guys how it looks like in the Sentinel health table. So if you go over to the logs view and see the Sentinel health, you see that there is an additional entry for the user triggered analytic rule run. Okay, let's go back to the incidents view. And let's look at that recreated incident. Immediately, you will see on the right that there are now 4 entities, but we'll also take a look into the full investigation experience. And now we see the IP that was mapped correctly. By the way, we can also add it to TI directly from over here. We see the timeline, and let's say, for example, that new SAP user, that entity, I want to take a look into the logs. So we can also do that from over here into the logs of SAP to see if something comes up when we search for it. So with that additional pane that came from the right for the logs, we look for the user, new SAP user, and see what it turns up. Well, there is this entry that says that it accessed the Send step. So let's bookmark this because that's weird behavior. We are creating a bookmark. We give it a name. We say what the time should be that we want to map it to, give a description. And whenever we are ready with this bookmark, it will also show up in the timeline so that you have a nice overview of what's happening in the investigation and with this incident. Now, we also talked about tasks. So maybe let's take a look at the different tasks that are related to this incident. So there are 4 tasks. The first one is find user. We already found the user. That's what we did. And let's say we also contacted the user. But let's first also put this incident on my name because I'm now working on it. So user assigned should be me. And actually, I think there should be an additional task that says that we have to check which data was actually accessed by the user. So we can add a manual task to add an investigation to identify that data. Now, I also want to have it automatically added in the future, but first let us take a look at the activity log because that's always also a good place to start whenever going into your incident. You see that we added the bookmark and that, for example, all the automation rules that run, and then you see the SAP sensitive data access automation rule. That's the one where we will add an additional step to the automation rule that should say you should check which data was accessed. So that's what we're doing over here, adding an additional task whenever the incident is created to assess and identify which data was accessed. So the next time an incident is generated, this will be added automatically to the task list. Now, I did also promise in the presentation to go over the SOAR Essentials solution. So that's what we're doing over here. We're going to take a look at one of the workbooks that is part of this Sentinel SOAR Essential, and which is actually the incidents task workbook. So this workbook gives a nice overview of all the incidents in your systems with which tasks they have, or for example, you can select your own owned instance with tasks. That's what we're going to do over here. So in Christis, we have 4 incidents. Let's take the one that we're working on. And if we scroll down, we see which tasks are still open. So one manually added, some automatic ones. We see the ones that we already closed, and we can also go from this view to the incident. Well, this was a very quick rundown, but Jeremy, you also have an amazing demo, right?
Thanks, Naomi. That was a great demo. So as we promised, we have 2 demos or 2 use cases to showcase. So now let me walk through the second demo. So first of all, let me talk about the scenario, right? So imagine customer is collecting logs. So let's say network firewall logs in set format, and the logs could be high in volume. So upon some evaluations, we found that only a portion of logs from the data source will be used for detection. And the remaining part of the logs, although will not be used for detections, but there is a requirement to store the logs for compliance purposes. And besides that, the logs that store for compliance purposes will also need to be accessed by a non-SOX team members. So let's break down to the 2 main requirements. So the first one is a strategy, right, to store and ingest the logs in the most cost-effective way. And secondly, it's because there is a need to allow a non-SOX member to access the table or the logs that will be used for compliance purposes. We also need to demonstrate the RBAC, right, that allows such scenario. So to address this, we'll be showcasing the features from data transformations. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the multi-destination routing that I talked about in the earlier slides. We will route the logs which are not being used for detections to another tables, which will be a custom table. And after that, we will set the ingestion plan as a basic logs plan for the most cost-effective way. And after that, we will leverage the newly improved table level RBAC experience to configure and allowing the one of the non-SOX member to access that specific custom table only and not the rest of the tables in the Sentinel workspace. Now, to further illustrate this scenario, and this will be a snapshot of how the logs will look like. So upon investigations, so we realized that we will be using the device event class ID as the logic to determine whether or not the records will be used for detections or for compliance purposes. So let's say we have determined that if the device event class ID value equals to URL, it will not be used for detections because it will be used for compliance purposes only. And if the value is not equals to URL, for example, scan or detect, those records will be used for detections. Okay, and that means that bring me to the next slides. After the implementation, the solution should look like this. So we will split the data stream, as I said, into multi-destination. So first of all, based on the logic that I just mentioned, if the device event class ID value is not equals to URL, it will be stored natively into the common security logs table, and of course with the analytics plan, because it will be used for detection. So if the device event class ID value equals to URL, it will be routed to a custom table that we newly defined and created. And that table will be configured as the basic logs ingestion plan. And remember, we also need to handle, right, the user access criteria, right? So here we have two users. We have Alan, who is part of the SOX team, right? So Alan has Sentinel Reader, and Alan will be able to see all the tables, right, in Sentinel workspace. But we also have Megan here, who is not a SOX team member, and she will need to access this custom table only. So with that, we will be creating a custom role, and then we will assign the permission of this custom role on this specific table only. Okay, so let's see in terms of implementations, how does that looks like? Okay, so I'm gonna play the recording. So first of all, you can see, for the before state, we have a demo workspace, logging in as Alan, and in the common security logs data, you can see that it has device event class ID with URL, scan, and other values. As I mentioned, right, if it's a URL, it will be used for compliance only. So we're gonna use data collection rule to split the data stream. So under the data flow, we have two flows, right? The first one, we mention the logic. If not equal to URL, it will be stored in common security log table. If the value equals to URL, it will be stored it will be routed to a newly created my custom table underscore CL. Okay, so this is how it looks like in demo to workspace. Again, log in as Alan, so you could see that common security log table, it will have the values not equals to URL, right? As you can see over here. And if we run a query against the custom table, it will only see the records for the device event class ID equals to URL only. Okay, so remember that we also need to set the table as a basic logs ingestion plan. So we can do that easily by going to log analytics workspace, search for the table, and we can just change that in this user interface by going to manage table and change the table plan. Right, so once this is done, next up is on the access permission. So we need to create a custom role. So we go to the analytics access control. You can see there's one role created. Minimum permission has been given. So the idea is, first of all, the user will have sufficient permission. First of all, need to see the workspace the information, right, or the workspace detail. And secondly, whenever the role is assigned to a table, that user will only see the data of that table. Okay. So first of all, we need to assign this custom role on the workspace level so that user can see the workspace information, but not the data in the table. So we're gonna choose the user, who is Megan. And as you can see, this is assigned on the workspace level. And secondly, to complete that, we have to go to the custom table. So we look for the custom table and assign the custom role for the same user, who's Megan. So that will allow Megan, first of all, to see the workspace and only be able to see the data in this specific table that's been assigned. So search for the user. As you can see, this is assigning to this specific custom table. Okay, so after that, let's see the end result. So I'm now logging in as Megan in the demo to workspace. So I'm now querying common security log table. Shouldn't be able to see any data. Yeah. And then after that, let's see by querying custom table. So Megan should be able to see the logs. There you go. So this, showcase that the scenario has been addressed, right, with the features that we mentioned earlier. And this also summarized our demo and the webinar for today. So hope you enjoy it and find this useful. I'll hand it over back to Jacqueline. Jacqueline, over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thanks to Naomi as well, both of you, for that wonderful presentation and for collecting all of those important updates for us in one place. A special thanks as well to the team of experts behind the scenes who helped answer all of our incoming questions, which were abundant. And as always, most of all, thank you to our attendees for being part of our community and for joining us today. In case we missed your question today, or if you have additional questions, on our Azure Sentinel forum at aka.ms/Azure Sentinel community. I'd also like to remind listeners that the best way to ensure you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements is to join our public community at aka.ms/security community. Lastly, we always love to hear your feedback on our webinars, so please take a moment to submit your feedback at aka.ms/security webinar feedback. Thank you again for all of you for being with us today, and we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.